Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Move podcast, talking about the Tour of Lombardia, the last, really, I suppose, the last major race of the season. We'll talk about it. There are some other Pro Tour events, but this is a beautiful race. This part of the world, and obviously, folks who've traveled or, it's kind of a bucket list place, right? That part of Italy, Lake Como, all the lake region, not that far from Milan. Is just a gorgeous area. Actually, and also a place where George and I lived for many years early on in our career when we were on Motorola. So pretty epic riding, which if you were able to catch the race, you would have seen it. Today I'm joined by, as I mentioned, George right over there. George, how you doing?
Good to see everybody.
Johan, Wist?
Alles goed. Alles in order.
Yeah. And JB, all good? JB, did you go down to the You go down to the music festival last night, or?
I did not. I may try to land a ticket before it's over because it's next weekend also. But breaking the weather here, it's a good time to get out.
Boy, I tell you what. This is something new. It's been hotter than donut grease down here. But speaking of that, today's show is brought to you by Zwift. Indoor cycling season is only just around the corner, and Zwift has made it easy for you. There's never been a better time to get started riding indoors. It's funny. You bring that up, JB. I walked out today. I usually sit outside because it's in the morning, drink my coffee, do a little Zen stuff, a little namaste. And I walked out today. I was like, whoa, I got to go back inside and grab a hoodie. Pretty cool. So that to me says, yeah, Zwift season is right around the corner. Zwift's Smart Trainer, the Zwift Hub, is now a better value than ever for only $599. Not only do you get a smart trainer with a pre-installed cassette of your choice for no fuss setup and a 1 year of Zwift, but you can also get free shipping when you enter the code Zwift Hub at checkout. There's more to do on Zwift than ever before, including the return of We Do Wednesday and Suffer Sunday. Head on over to Zwift.com and grab your Zwift Hub. And don't forget the code Zwift Hub for free shipping. Also today brought to you by Element. Yeah, we talk about it all the time, right? And we're sitting here talking about the weather. That doesn't change anything. We're still going to get out there. We're still going to hustle. We're still going to suffer. Still going to sweat. This is our go-to drink. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. No sugar, no gluten, no artificial BS. It is the real deal. Our listeners can get a free Element sample pack with any order when you head over to drinklmnt.com/themove. That's drinklmnt.com/themove. Also today brought to you by HVMN. And if you guys were on the pre-show, you members were part of our members meeting. You saw me hammer one of these little shots of ketone IQ. Now, it's part of our daily regimen, but after the night that I had last night, as JB and I touched on with ACL Fest going on and everything, I just needed a little pick me up, right? And it came here in the form of the ketone IQ. Look at that, and I already feel better. So we often hear that fasting and exercise are good for the brain. HVMN launched the world's first drinkable ketone in 2017. Ketone IQ is their latest innovation on ketones that has improved effectiveness, taste, and cost. And it is no wonder that HVMN supplies ketones to more than 60% of the teams in this peloton, which we watched today. You can save 30% off your first subscription order of Ketone IQ at hvmn.com/themove. And I cannot promise that I won't have another one before this show is over. All right, let's talk about Tour Lombardia. I mean, Pogačar. I mean, Johan, you said it in our group chat, which to me is astonishing, right? 9 starts in monuments. And let's, as a reminder, folks, the monuments are Milan-San Remo, Paris-Roubaix, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Tour of Flanders, and Lombardia. So he's only done 9 of them. He's won 5. I mean, and this is not to mention his 3rd Tour of Lombardia in a row.
Yeah.
Patrick.
No, it's and especially I think this race for him, it's the 3rd time in the row, but I don't know, there's something about this race that he has under control. Like typically the races before, the preparation races, he's there, but he doesn't win. And compared to the rest, then on this race, he's just on another level. Today, he I mean, he was the strongest, but he was not dominant on that last climb. But still, he went first over the climb, the downhill. He was amazing, and I think it was about 30 something kilometers to the finish when he went. Of course, a lot of downhill, but there's something about this race that he likes, and I mean, to win it 3 times in a row is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and we saw just like you said, Johan. Last year, Roglič, he was dominating in the races leading up to Lombardia, and pretty much the same thing happened this year. Roglič won on the hard finish there, steep finish. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, handedly over Pogačar, and then we saw again this year Pogačar, but it wasn't like he dominated the climb, like you said. Roglič caught back up to him essentially on the top of the climb, and somehow Pogačar pulled away from him on the descent, which, let's not forget, Roglič is a downhill ski jumper, so must have like the most amazing downhill skills. But for Pogačar just to ride away from him on the descent, for me, was one of the most impressive things, because I felt like Roglič rode in a really good conservative climb, didn't go over his limit, and really brought him back at the end. And then I thought we had a real race there where they were kind of almost all back together. But to see Pogačar roll away on the descent like that was incredibly impressive. And it made me think that he really practiced not only that climb, because he did the Strava, he had like the KOM a couple of days ago, but he must have put a lot of effort into that downhill as well, because to ride away from somebody like Roglič on the downhill, it's incredible.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, you guys had some question marks by Pogačar, because you're like, the Tour de France should have been his focus, but he had a bucket list to win Flanders. Lombardia you can do if, it's after the Tour. What do you guys think going into next season? Because he checked that box with Flanders.
Yeah.
How will he prepare for the Tour? Will that be the focus?
I don't know. I mean, the guy loves to race. That's for sure. And I personally think, after this season, let's not forget, he won Tour of Flanders, he won Amstel Gold Race, he won Flèche Wallonne, he was second in the Tour, won 2 stages. Now he wins Lombardy. What else do you need to prove? I think now it's time to go back to Project Tour de France, and at least that's what I would think. We're not in his mind, of course. Neither are we.
Johan, like you said, he won those races, but you didn't mention the races that nobody cares about. Ruta del Sol, like from the beginning of the year, where he was riding away, dominating. And to me, looking back, it's like, well, you know what? Nobody really cares about these races, so perhaps you should really focus on these races and the Tour de France, and not worry about these other build-up races as much as he does. Like we always say, the guy who loves to win. When he shows up to a race, he wants to win. Johan and I ran into Giannetti at the start of Tour of Flanders. Like, I can't control this guy. He wants to win every single race. So hopefully, next year they go into the season with a different approach.
Let's not forget, who knows what would have happened without the crash in Liège-Bastogne-Liège,
of course.
And having that really delay in his preparation. We don't know. So, hey, I think at this moment, even if he didn't win the Tour, for me, he remains the best rider in the world.
Johan, if it would be and maybe somebody has asked this question, and if not, they should. But just ask him directly. Would you trade a year where you won Tour of Flanders and Tour of Lombardia, for example, and many other things? But just let's take 2 monuments. Would you trade those for a win in the Tour? Now, I know what my answer would be. I'm curious, because it's something he approaches these things. Not phoning it in, obviously, and you can tell he's genuinely passionate and excited about it and excited to win. I just wonder if he'd trade them. I don't. My answer would be, of course you'd trade them, but I'm not sure that he would.
I don't think so. I personally think crazy. That these guys, they have a different mentality. Okay, of course it's difficult to, Vingegaard has focused on the tours. He didn't do a single one-day race, I think. Maybe one. He won the Tour, and he was second. Was he second? Yeah, he was second in the Vuelta. Put that next to Pogačar season, right? And let us judge, or let us, say, okay, who was the best rider? Who had the best season? I think it's close. Vingegaard did win the Tour, but on the other hand, if you look at Pogačar's season, I'm curious to see who's going to win the, what's it called, the Velo d'Or. It's like,
right,
biggest I'm gonna say Pogačar, because he's been there from he was already there in Milan San Remo, as one of the 3-4 best riders, and he's here in Tour of Lombardy, and in between he won a lot of things, and whatever he didn't win was he crashed in Liège, and then he still was second in the Tour after that wrist injury. So,
does the UCI points answer that question? Who got more points this season?
He's in first, right? So, I don't know. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure he's in first. Let me check how you guys keep going.
Yeah. Another fun thing about the course today, and we were kicking this around in the members meeting, was it passes a really, outside of just being absolutely gorgeous, this riding around there and very, very difficult, seemingly it's just never flat. Like it's always hard. But on top of one of the climbs, the Madonna di Ghisallo is a church that's really a sanctuary to the history of cycling. And if you're watching the show, you can see this, and I've been in there several times. But if you are in that part of the world, go just have a climb up the Ghisallo, or if you're driving by on your way to Bellagio or one of the beautiful places there, just stop in. I mean, this is, again, if you're watching, you can see it. I mean, it kind of takes your breath away. Look at this. You've got all the bikes. You've got a Coppi bike, a Mosier bike. I believe our good friend Jan Ulrich has a bike in there. Johan, you pointed out and asked me if that's my Motorola Eddie Merckx there on the top left. It's unfortunately it is not. That's the actual bike that Fabio Casartelli was riding when he crashed at the 1995 Tour de France and lost his life. But it's, bikes, jerseys, medals. It's really, really look at just, wow. I mean, you just watch it and like I said, takes your breath away.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually I saw that Jan Ulrich was in there today, actually doing an interview with Italian TV. I think this picture actually doesn't do it justice, because there's a lot more. Right.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There. Yeah. Lots of jerseys. I mean, crazy. Coppi, Bartali. I mean, really old jerseys in there and bikes. So it is amazing. What's it?
That's like one of the only times I go to church, when we stop by a place like that.
I mean, if the special thing about the Tour of Lombardy is like this, the climb to Madonna di Ghisallo today, they had it at the beginning. So, they change the course every year. They either go from Bergamo to Como or from Como to Bergamo. And today they had the Madonna di Ghisallo in the beginning. Normally that's the last climb. And from the other side, it's a lot harder. It's very, very steep. So, but anyway, the race is plenty hard. I think it was about 4,000 meters of climb.
Oh my God.
So oddly enough, back in the day when Lance and I lived in Como, that would be our long loop where we go Como to Bergamo and back. So that used to be our training ground, and it's really stunning, world-class cycling and very, very difficult. So Lombardia, that's why we call it a monument, because it's one of the hardest one-day races in the world. Lots of climbing, very technical, fast descents, and takes a real complete rider like we saw today when Lombardia.
The other thing that stands out to me is I remember the first time I raced Lombardia was 1990. It was either 92 or 93. I believe 1992. It was raining and I mean freezing. And we've seen it, over the last few years, very, very different conditions today. Almost hot, right? You saw Pogačar with the salt, and you saw the evidence of a hot, hard race with, the salt on the jerseys, him cramping. Compare and contrast to my first experience there 30 plus years ago. I couldn't get off the bike fast enough. It was that cold. Mm-hmm. So I suppose can be any kind of condition.
Well, they call it the race of the falling leaves, right? Of the dead leaves, because it's in the fall. But for sure, I mean, the climate is now. Even here, like today, for example, in Madrid, it's the same like you guys in Austin lands. It's 33 degrees today, and in Italy, it wasn't much different. But still, this race is I think it's an extremely difficult race to win. You have to be a really good climber, and if you look before the race, there was 3 or 4 riders who could win, right? And nobody. I don't think anybody had Bajoli on the list. A guy who had second, amazing performance after winning one of those prep races in the lead up to the Tour of Lombardy. Roglic third. So, I mean, two of the three best riders in the world were on the podium, and we wouldn't have expected anything different.
Can we talk about the Roglic's sprint though? I mean, he let out the sprint at the end of a race. You just said it, Johan, 4,000 meters. So that's about close to 13,000 feet of climbing. And they could hardly come around him. I mean, it was an interesting tactic, but just shows you just what a boss he is. I mean, that I was like, the way he started, I was like, everybody's coming around him.
Yeah.
And only one, and he didn't even get out of the saddle.
He barely passed him.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but he got dropped on that last climb coming into town. So, I mean, the guy is to me, the strongest. He's got the strongest mental skills out of anybody in the bunch. A guy like that who's won so many Grand Tours and has done pretty much everything you can do in cycling, gets dropped, knows he's got no chance to win, but still fights back, claws his way back, and leads out the sprint and ends up getting third in the podium. The guy never quits. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Roglic.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about him and the news that just hit this week. Of course, there's been a lot of news in cycling about a potential mega merger and where that leaves guys like Roglic or Remco, and let's touch on all that, and also where Roglic ultimately ended up or is ultimately going, which I'm a fan of this move. But before we do, today's show also brought to you by AG1. Now, this is something you talk about, part of the daily protocol. AG1 it's one of these things you just can't miss. I think for everybody here on the team, it's really about taking control of your health. When I started drinking AG1, I literally could feel a difference almost immediately. And that's the reason that it's just a go-to. I was sick of taking tons of supplements and pills and things like that. And this is all right there, all in one package, right? 75 adaptogens, all the healthy stuff. I've often admitted I'm not too good about fruits and veggies. And by the way, all for less than $3 a day. Even my, friends, my mom, for example, I started drinking AG1 and they all say the same thing, right? I've got more energy. I feel better. I feel like I just took control of my health. AG1 is the supplement I trust to provide the support my body needs daily. And that's why they've been a partner for so long. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs. All you got to do is go to drinkag1.com/themove. That's drinkag1.com/themove. Check it out. Also today brought to you by 8 Sleep. Now this thing, I tell you, I love products that are designed in a way that are just, I often refer to how Apple designs products. And if Apple designed a sleep mattress cover that cools your body, your core temp, and improves sleep, it would look exactly like this. Like it is, this thing is so damn sleek, not just the actual mattress, the user experience with the app, how you can control not just the temperature of your side of the mattress, but also your partner's. So if you get mad at your partner, just grab the app and crank it down to like 55 degrees and see how they like it overnight. George is like, that's not a bad idea.
Have you looked at the sleep data? It's very similar to, if not more informative, than a lot of the wearables.
I tell you,
your heart rate, your levels of sleep. It's fascinating.
So of course I'm a religious user of the Oura Ring, and you're right, JB. Obviously the interface user experience on the app, you can control both sides of the mattress, the temperature, but it also has the feature where it tells you your sleep cycles and heart rate, all these things. And if you compare and contrast to the Oura Ring, which is very accurate, it is close. Like it's wildly impressive just how they pull it off. So for you guys, go to 8sleep.com/themove. It's going to save you $150 on the pod cover. Stay cool with 8 Sleep. Now shipping within the USA, Canada, the UK, select countries in the EU and Australia. That's 8sleep.com/themove. Good catch there, JB. You're right.
I have an announcement to make. We were just talking about the new museum, the Gazalo. And funny enough, your bike may not be there, Lance, but apparently my bike is there right now temporarily. I just got a message from somebody from the Move Mallorca saying that My custom Team BMC SLR is there for to commemorate my 17th Tour de France. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's there for a little bit. My BMC, pretty cool.
And wait, you didn't know that? You had to get a message.
I had no idea. No, I'm surprised Johan didn't know that. He knows everything.
I didn't know.
Well, I know we've touched on it.
We're going to go back one more time to Lombardy. It's a monument. It's a bit short. Normally monuments are 250 kilometers and above. This was 239. But just to show you how hard these races are, like we have the 5 monuments, and this year, and we've said it many times, the level of these top guys are so close to each other that sometimes it's difficult to see a difference between them. But the monuments are so hard that this year every single monument has been won solo. Milan-San Remo, we had Van der Poel going by himself. Tour of Flanders, Pogačar destroyed everybody, won like dominantly. Paris-Roubaix, again, Van der Poel solo. Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Remco solo, and now again, Pogačar solo. So, compared to other races, this is, like monuments are just, that's just a league on its own. It's a special, really special race.
We say it seemingly every week. This sport is just changing. It's evolving. We're seeing things that we've just never seen before, just like that.
Well, I know we're going to touch on some other things. Johan and Spencer have done a great job doing some Move Plus updates with a lot of things happening with this supposed merger. But let's go back to Roglič. You guys were talking about him sprinting. He has a little bit of a different kind of motivation right now. He just announced he's moving over to Bora, which is going to make for a pretty dynamic Tour de France, right? Just would love your thoughts on that. That was just announced a day or two ago.
I like it. And we talked a lot about Bora during the tour, and look, the guy I forget his name, the guy who owns Bora, he's aggressive. He wants to be present, right? We often talk about the super teams, right? So you've got obviously Jumbo and Ineos and UAE and even QuickStep, but this guy wants a seat at the table. Straight up, and the team always races hard. I like the move. I'm oftentimes curious and skeptical of what happens to guys when they leave these super teams, and just how the infrastructure, the training, the really like the Six Sigma approach to every aspect of the sport. You worry or you wonder what will happen, but I feel like Roglič is a pro. He's old enough to know how to, to handle himself. And so I love the move.
Well, I think historically we've seen, Ineos came out with the marginal gains. They dominated for many years. Then they started losing some of their top riders that went to the other teams. And then what do these top riders do? They bring all the stuff that they learned from these older teams to their new teams, and they implement it. So we'll start seeing a lot of this new information. Like, for instance, Bora already hired the coach that Wout van Aert and Roglič had. So they're bringing him over. And I actually found it fascinating that Bora is taking such a long-term approach to cycling, where they said they took the funds from money that they've saved up over the years from their budget to hire Roglič, which is, let's be honest, several $1 million. So most teams, we all know in the World Tour, they're just scraping by year to year. They don't have any money to spare, but these guys are not only winning races like the Giro d'Italia with Jai Hindley getting the yellow jersey this year in the Tour de France, but they're always long-term planning. And I like the approach. I think it's making the Tour de France even more exciting next year with splitting all these guys up. I think it's going to be a fun year for us to talk about cycling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think I didn't see it coming. Actually, I was rather expecting, once they start to say Roglič is allowed to go, I would say Ineos,
Right.
And so I'm a bit surprised that they lost out on that. They must have lost out on the bid. Apparently, I've read numbers of 6 million euros per year for Roglič. It's a huge contract.
Wow.
So good on him. It's probably going to be his last big contract, because it's 3-year deal. I've read somewhere.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. This move is interesting from Roglic. I think he's ultimately the big winner of this whole story of the merger, takeover, whatever. And at the end of the day, there's been so much going on in the last 2 weeks. I mean, we started to talk about on day one when we were at the dinner in Mallorca. The news came out, and then we've been talking about it since. And now yesterday, finally, the situation is that there's nothing going on. Jumbo Visma stays the same. Jumbo is probably going to go away, although they still have a contract for next year. So let's see what happens there. And now finally, Soudal-QuickStep remains in the same position as they were. So a lot of confusion has happened. But to me, the interesting thing, I don't know what you guys think, is that there's been a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and in my opinion, this has been also a big war in the bicycle industry. I personally think Specialized was really, really heavily involved in this. They saw an opportunity to move to Jumbo Visma. Finally, didn't happen, but at the same time, I think they were also instrumental in having Roglic going to Bora because they're a sponsor there. And finally, the big holding company, the mother company of where Cervelo is, it's a company called PON in Holland. Apparently, they now have come up with extra funds to maintain, the level of the budget of Visma. I don't know what it's going to be called now. Visma, I don't know.
Well, isn't there talk of Amazon coming in?
But then I've also read that was not really that finally didn't work out. I've heard, so we don't know. But what for sure is that the entities of the teams remain the same, and so I mean it was interesting to see everything that happened, and I think for example Ineos have been waiting because they have been holding off on signing riders. They knew what was going on. In my opinion, they were even part of the discussions at some point. And now finally, I think that's one of the big questions. What's going to happen there at Ineos, because they lost riders. For example, one of the, Roglic goes to Bora, but for example, Dani Martinez also goes to Bora. So they're strengthening their team there. And then at the same time, in Ineos, I can't see anything happening. There's no new signings, or at least nothing really spectacular.
Are you saying were they waiting in the wings to scoop up the talent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were waiting to see which riders would be free if it would happen that Jumbo or Visma would absorb some of those riders of Soudal-QuickStep, and there's been more of those teams that were waiting there, but finally it's not happening. So it gave for a lot of stories and a lot of speculations.
Biggest loser in all this, I think, is Remco. If you read between the lines, he was dying for this to happen so that he could leave. And now he's, and I think the whole situation is just fishy. These poor, and you saw some of the quotes and comments from the guys that are on QuickStep. Said, look, nobody's told us anything. We don't know where we're going to end up. We don't know if there's going to be a place for us. And we're talking about professional cycling. It's one of the biggest sports in the world. Like this is, it felt Bush League to me. And now after it was so public, then these guys are like, well, great. That I guess.
I think it's telling and actually sad for cycling that a team like Jumbo Visma, the best team in the world, has to really consider a merger like this. You would think, okay, the sponsors are lining up, it's not the case, and that's really telling. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Normally Remco should stay put, but who knows? I don't know exactly what happened there to that structure of Soudal-QuickStep, what happened there, and maybe he'll still try to leave. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard the end of the story.
I agree with that. I mean, I find it hard to believe that it just ends like this. Like everybody, okay, you go right, you go left. We're cool now, right? I don't know. I'm with you, George.
Yeah.
The other thing that has happened since Lance and George have been on is Cavendish announcing that he's going to throw one more year at it, which is great for the move. George probably had some knowledge of that before he announced it, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I spent some time with him in Nice when I was there for the Ironman, and he took a lot of time to reflect on what happened this year, and just decided he didn't want to go out like that. He just had such an amazing career, and no matter how successful you are in sports, you never want to go out on the ground with an injury. I mean, that was just, I think, just looking back, it would always haunt him. And so he had support from his family, which was the number one, barrier for him, and support from Vinokurov with Astana. Said, "Hey man, we really want you back. Take your time, whatever you need. We're here to support you." And he just felt comfortable. So he's going to do one more year and have a crack at breaking that record of the Tour de France.
Yeah, I agree. I would stop short of giving any praise to Alexander Vinokurov. I mean, he has no other story on that team. This is the story, right? I mean, I guess if you were going to give him any credit, you credit him for bringing a guy like Markov over, who Cav needs obviously to stay on the bike, which I hope he can, but he needs guys, right? It's not, you can't just win field sprints by yourself. But at this point, that team is just pack fill, straight up.
I think
they should build a team around Cavendish and see if he can break the record. And I agree, he should race another year. Absolutely.
They're really gambling on that, Lance. They're team number 21 right now. I mean,
yeah. So
the thing that having Cavendish on the team and having a go at that record is like a life insurance policy for Vinokurov. If they do that, if they break the record, the story in Kazakhstan, and they're able to spin it in that way that they can say, okay, we made history. We, the Kazakhs, Astana, we made history. It's going to be Cav who wins, but it's going to be on Astana. So, they definitely reinforced themselves. Morkov went there, so they have Case Ball. Also, Sabatini, I think, went there. I think that one of those guys that. But I heard, George, maybe you can enlighten us. I read somewhere that actually the day after Cav crashed in the Tour, he called Morkov and said, "Hey, I want to go for this. So you need to come over here." Do you know anything about that?
Oh, I do know Vinokurov told him right away, even I think in the hospital, like, "Hey man, do one more year. We're here for you." Which, I think Cav found really really appreciated that sort of support from Vinokurov. But I think the Morkov thing came afterwards. Once he started thinking about his comeback and what it would look like and what he needed to be successful, that kind of sort of came into play.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I think it's an interesting story, and it would be amazing, but still, it's not going to be easy. It's winning a stage of the Tour is never easy.
What a story it would be. I mean, and by the way, for folks, if you haven't seen his Cavs documentary on Netflix, it's very special. It's worth 90 minutes of your time to check it out. And I believe that there's a part 2 in the works, which of course everything we just talked about makes it even more interesting. But it's an amazing piece. And the other thing that really stood out for me, if we're talking about the Cav documentary, was when you watch cycling, you see all these guys on the motos, right, for network coverage, and you see them in the race on the motos commentating. When you see Bradley Wiggins, I mean, there's never been a moto commentator as great as Bradley Wiggins.
I agree.
I mean, that scene where he is talking about Cav and obviously has a deep personal relationship, but so that comes through. But everybody else that does that for a living should quit. And Sir Bradley Wiggins doesn't even do it anymore. He is so good. Like, it was that was my favorite part of the documentary.
All right. Couple other things. I do have some messages I want to share, because for those of you who do not know, in Mallorca, you guys sat down with Jan Ullrich. It's an incredible show. Go listen to it. You'll probably want to listen several times. But here are a few comments that I wanted to share that were on YouTube. Aaron's writes, says, "God, as a teen, watching these tours each holiday after school in Germany, I hated Lance so much.
Cool.
cheering each and every year for Jan sitting in front of the TV. Now I absolutely love to see this friendship. Truly inspiring. Willkommen zurück im Leben. Jan, you're a true fighter and a legend. Thanks a lot to Lance, George, Johan, JB, and the whole We Do team. That means welcome back to life. Net W says, my favorite podcast ever, listening through tears and laughter. These men have a bond that will never be broken. Seeing Jan so healthy and happy makes everything right in our crazy, tumultuous world. Please do this every year at your camp. Mark Doyle writes, Jan is a hero for so many of us. My childhood revolved around watching him every July. The press constantly took shots at him and tried to pull him down. To see him happy and healthy now brings tears of happiness to my eyes.
Awesome.
One last message, and there are tons and tons of these, so I just grabbed a few. Grace Malley says, a truly amazing conversation for sports, history, cycling, sportsmanship, and especially for those who followed Jan and Lance's epic battles during those many years. I, too, have Hühnerhaut. Chicken skin. You have to listen to the show to get that reference, the chicken skin reference. Hühnerhaut. Yeah. So anyhow, just wanted to share those messages with you. Go to your podcast thread. Well, it's worth watching on YouTube too, just to see Jan looking healthy. So go check it out on YouTube. And last couple of things in my notes here: Gravel Worlds is tomorrow, and Wout van Aert is showing up. That's going to be
Valverde.
Yeah, Valverde too. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And
today was the women's gravel.
The women's race. Yeah, Niewiadoma won. Yeah,
world champion. Yep. Gravel, yeah.
Yep.
And last thing in my notes, we will, if you're a We Do member and you're going to be in Greenville in a couple weeks, you'll have to come by the Airstream and say hello. We'd love to visit with you. That's just right around the corner.
Yep. The Airstream is still alive.
Keeping it going. I'm trying to kill it and keep it going at the same time.
Yeah, isn't there a part of you, JB, that really misses those days? I mean, now we have to work, we have to please George and set up things around George's schedule and rent George nice houses in Aspen for the summer. And well, don't you? I kind of miss it. Bring it over. Drive over one day so I can just kind of sit in it.
Yeah, I'll do a drive-by with it. There you go.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And I guess what? Boy, it's going to be a few months before we see y'all, but
we'll be back with some of the. Yeah. We'll do remember the
pluses,
the best and worst moments of the season. Yeah. We're going to do that. The trades and transfers might be the most interesting year ever since we've done that.
Right.
But there's more to come.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in.